I think that the story of Casey Neistat is very much the story of something that is inaccessible to most young creators. Out of here. Style, baby. My name's Matt. I'm 23, so I'm in the peak maturity of my creative career and just my creative abilities in general. And I want to talk about style today. Style. If you haven't figured out your style by age 17 or 18, you're I'm just kidding. You've got till 19. Style. People are always talking about style on Instagram. Oh, I love your style. An artist has figured out their style. I can tell that's Sam Kolder from the style of the transitions. This person's clearly emulating Samuel Elkins' style of editing. Oh. How am I going to start with this? This is just like a camera rant that comes from two places. It comes from an experience I recently had re-editing a photo from 2018 and a memory of this article that I cannot find, but it was about this young creator who was up and coming, and he said his idol was Casey Neistat because Casey Neistat showed that if he can do it, anyone can. And I so disagree with that sentiment, and that is part of the sentiment online. This was a New York Times article, and they're interviewing a bunch of up-and-coming creators. I've Googled this. I've tried to find it. Cannot find it. They're interviewing these kids, and they're asking about their influences. One of these kids brings up Casey Neistat, who is very important for him, influential. Same with me, same with millions of people. But this kid says, one of the great things about Casey Neistat is that you see he's just this one guy taking on the world with his camera, and if he can do it, anyone can do it. And I read that line, I just so disagreed with his take on that. I think that the story of Casey Neistat is very much the story of something that is inaccessible to most young creators. Something that they can't do. And there's a reason why Casey was the exception and not the rule. Instead of Casey being an example of why anybody could do it, he's a great example of why most people could not do it. Casey was like a perfect storm of all these like weird variables that are so not what most up-and-coming young creators who idolize him are.
Sesame Street was brought to you today by
the letter R. Let's say you're like 18, 19, 21, 20. Most of people, I think, in that age range probably have under 4 years of experience doing filmmaking, doing photography. Maybe more if you picked it up when you're 10 or something, but there's a lot of people who got into whatever their creative form was recently, is what I'm trying to say. And Casey was the opposite of that. Casey had been filmmaking for decades. Casey's not the everyman. Is the every 18-year-old who starts a YouTube channel also a kid who had already sold an HBO show? I don't think so. That's not something you usually can do when you're 18. A very, 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 very slim percentage of people would be able to have the raw talent and put in the hours and just be some weird freak that could know themselves well enough and have mastered their craft well enough to be able to do what Casey did. He had the advantage of time. He had so much time, and he had put in so many hours.
I want to be as big of a deal as he is. I gave up on that years ago. You should never compare yourself to other people in life. But I do remember that feeling of standing at the bottom of a huge mountain, staring up, and it feeling seemingly impossible to get to where I wanted to go. And in the last 15 years, I've learned it's not, but it takes a lot of work and a long time.
See what I mean? You know, by the time YouTube came around and he decided to commit to the daily vlogs, or even before that when I watched his videos and they were already just so Casey, you know? There's something about his videos that is so unique. His style was already so defined because he had taken the time to experiment. He had copied the style in large part from his mentor. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I'm gonna put you in the shoes I was in years ago when I was but a child of 2019. This is my experience. You go on YouTube, go on Instagram, and you see people who have very distinct styles. And you see people like Sam Kolder, and you look at Brandon Woelfel, who's like pretty close to your age, and you think, oh, he's also young, he's figured this shit out. And they all are very successful, have a lot of followers, and oftentimes have committed to something that is identifiably theirs, that is so like just distinct. You see that, you're like, ah, that's a Brandon Woelfel style picture. Ah, that's a Sam Kolder style transition. All you see are people with like very, very distinct or identical to like the person next to them styles, because they're so clearly all in. Like they're really going hard with that teal and orange LUT on everything, that teal and orange preset. They're really going with that super filmic look where they take the curve and they bring it up to crush the blacks. They're going all in on all their photos, and they're super consistent with it. And so all these young creatives, what else are they gonna do? They're gonna see that and think I should do the same. And I'm saying this from a place of like literally this was me like up till, I don't know. In 2018, I've just gotten back from study abroad, and it changed me.
Abroad like changes you. I'm just like more sophisticated now.
Anyway, in 2018, I was like mid-metamorphosis, mid-like creative. Who I was very much changing. A lot of turmoil, as what happens when you're 22, 21, early 20s. And I was trying to figure out my style. And I did that through kind of copying what I was seeing online. And something that was very important to me was maintaining a good Instagram aesthetic. And so every row had to be like the same kind of editing so that it was all cohesive. And it was like a bunch of different rows of just like these beautiful blocks of color and composition. And it looked great if you scrolled down. And so the format of that kind of dictated the function of what I was doing. So I was trying to make sure that all of my Instagram rows were edited in the same style to kind of flex on my social media skills and my photography skills and my video skills, and just show what a social media boy I was. And it was pretty cool. I kind of missed that aesthetic a little bit, but it put me in a situation where I was forced to make creative decisions that I didn't really want to make, and that didn't really go with my tastes that were developing. It was just so not me. And who am I? Well, that's a great question. That's a question we are all thinking, especially Jean Valjean from Les Mis. He famously said, "Who am I? Can I conceal myself forevermore? Pretend I'm not the man I was before. Where must my name until I die be no more than an alibi? Must I lie?" Who am I? That's a great question. And translating that, who am I, into a creative style that can be felt or seen in your work is something that takes a lot of time. And that concept is constantly being misrepresented on the internet. Like there's been no other time where creatives were so pressured and so expected to figure out their unique, original style within like a year of picking up their creative thing they're doing. The social media strategy and just the bombardment of how social media works, where you're only going to be seeing the people who are successful and who have likely figured that stuff out at an alarmingly early rate. You know, and that's just such a misleading characterization of what this process is like, because finding your style takes a long time often. I mean, it comes from knowing yourself in an honest way, understanding what you are not, especially because the process is oftentimes copying what other people do, and that's who they are, and that's not necessarily what you are. But you see it worked there, so you're gonna try it anyway. And that's where the second part comes in, which is experimenting, copying, seeing if you like it, having that kind of, lack of identity, that identity crisis if you're like super invested. So I'll give a few different final hot takes on how to find your style, which is, if you've got other interests, if you've got other skills, try to include as much of yourself as you can in your art. For example, I wasn't even trying to do this as an example, but like I just sang. I'm into instruments and I play guitar and I've always been super into music. I'm not that great at it, but it's a part of me that I have spent time developing and that I really enjoy. And so sometimes in a YouTube video or at my TikTok videos, I'll do like a funny little music song recording. It's a TikTok video editing tip. That is it. Those are a number of tricks and tips that I hope help you in your Adobe Premiere journey. There's a great guy on the RuneScape section of YouTube who creates like raps that he puts into his videos that are very much like it's out of nowhere. And he just throws in like a rap song about RuneScape.
Forester outside, machete in the grass. She said, if you want logs, go sharpen my axe. So went west and talked to Captain Shanks. He said, blow me kid, I'm busy, no thanks. Across the sea to see Brian.
It's funny that he takes this like deep knowledge of a video game that his channel's about and some like musical talent, but really just his like comedic side, and he blends it together. And it's his style. It doesn't have to be committing to an extreme aesthetic. Another thing is especially at the beginning, really copying other people's style can very much help you advance quickly. And you don't have to commit to it for a long time. I know a lot of people are very against copying. That's how everybody does it. That's how humans learn. From the time you're a baby copying the sounds that your parents and everybody else makes to being a Renaissance artist and copying the way that the Greeks drew. Copying can be a very valuable part of getting you towards your style. So don't discount it. And for my final example with this, 2018, I was editing this photo, and to make it fit with my feed, I had to desaturate it. And it felt so wrong. I knew that I liked the blue sky being this piercing blue. And I loved the color of the leaves and even the model's skin being desaturated. It was just, it killed this whole great colorful summer vibe that the photo had and that I wanted to, color grade the photo with and then present on social media. I wanted to saturate the photo more, and in 2018 I posted a desaturated photo that wasn't really me. And then this year I look back on it and I increased the saturation and I colored it the way I wanted to and I posted it and it made me happy and it felt right. And things like that are real strong indications that you are on the correct path to finding your style and that what you're making is aligned with who you are. That's all I gotta say. You got time. Kid, I would know. I'm 23. I've seen it all. Make sure to like. Make sure to comment, send this video to your family group chat, and I'll see you next time. Yeah! YouTube video done. Let me tell you about style. It all started with Taylor Swift's hit to breaking up with the One Direction superstar, Harry Styles. So go forth, you stylish little bitches. I support you. I got a little story to tell you about 2 water bottles